California wants to double its taxes. You okay with that? Let's talk with California wants to double its taxes. And here we have two that live in Florida. You right now live in New York.
So I double my taxes from you.
How awesome is that, though? But you like to play volleyball in Delray, which is
I'd move here if my wife didn't hate Florida.
That's right.
We discussed this last time.
We
You
did.
asked him
We
if he would
definitely had this
actually move here.
conversation. Okay. So let's see what's going on with California. All right, here we go. This is an article from National Review. You can also find this article, I believe, on Washington Examiner and taxfoundation.org, but this one is National Review. Folks, if you're living in California or thinking about moving to California, I don't know a lot of people that are thinking about moving to California, but you may want to listen to this. California wants to double its taxes. Jared Walzak of the Tax Foundation wrote a blog post yesterday with news that doesn't seem possible. California, an already high tax rate, wants to double its tax revenue. No matter how he broke it down, the proposed constitutional amendment, the numbers are astounding. It would increase the top marginal tax rate to 18.5%. That's 7.05% higher than Hawaii, the next highest state, that 12.75% higher than a national median. It would increase taxes by an average of $12,250 per household. All told, the new tax package is intended to raise an additional $163 billion a year, which is more than California raised in total tax revenue any year prior to the pandemic. It's not just income taxes, though. The state wants to implement a payroll tax as well, with the top tax rate applying to taxpayers making only $49,990 in annual income. Currently, only Massachusetts and Nevada have a payroll tax that do more than any fund unemployment insurance. He continues, the most insane part about the proposal, however, is the 2.3% gross receipt tax. Only 7 states levy gross receipt taxes, which are especially harmful to economic growth because they are based on business revenue, not profits. Even if businesses lose money, they still pay the gross receipt taxes because they still made revenue, which is insane if you ask me. If this proposal adopted, California would essentially have 18 tax brackets, and individuals making less than $50,000 per year would wind up paying double-digit marginal tax rates. Thoughts, Mr. Stossel?
I think it's great because we got 50 states. It was a wonderful design so we could experiment, and we need models of failure. So
You need models of failure. Okay, I like that.
So you're saying this is a model of failure or potential failure?
Well, I hope it will be, but it is amazing how Californians can say, I believe government will solve all the problems and will get the homeless off the street and will make everything nice. And if I'm paying 18%, that's okay. I made a lot of money in Silicon Valley. I can afford it, and it's a public service.
Now, here's a question, Daniel. I want to ask both of you guys. Curious to know what you say. I think the question is the following. Newsom, when he won the recall, he was going against Larry Elder. And if we remember that, it was convincing victory, 64. It came out at 67. By the time they got everything, it was around 63%, 62%. But it was not even close, right? So if 60% plus support Newsom, how likely is it that something like this could pass in California?
Wait. Time out. There was a 4th stimulus check mailed to Californians right before the recall vote.
Okay.
So they're literally getting $1,500 of cash in their bank accounts right before they go to the polls. How convenient is that? And B, to John's point about a failed experiment, it failed last year. Anybody guess when California was entered into the union? Year? 1850. Since 1850, the population of California net has grown every single year until 2021. And 2021 was the first time that they had a net decline in their population. So if they want to continue on this merry path, then they can fail even bigger. Yay! Lose even more companies.
But here's a question, Danielle, for you. If 60% supported Newsom, what's the likelihood that this insane tax proposal will pass?
I mean, if it's only the crazy voters coming out and the other people who are like, screw that, or like leaving, and they were on the fence before, they were like, if anything else crazy. And I've actually spoken to people out there who have great companies, they make good amounts of money, and they were like, well, we thought the taxes were going to go up. We've already bought places elsewhere in the country, and then all the craziness stopped. But they're like, if the taxes go up, I'm out of here. I've already got my plan B. Actually, I already own the property outside of the state of California. So a small exodus is going to become a mass exodus.
And do we really know that they supported Newsom? Because the press portrayed Larry Elder as a crazy man, and Larry talks so fast and puts out so many ideas in one quick sentence. He turned off a lot of people. I love him, and he's right on all the issues.
Really? So you were a fan of Larry Elder?
Totally.
Wow.
Except for his presentation. And I think he scared people.
They
Fast
portrayed
talking
him to be the
salesman
right of
type of
Trump.
thing. Is that okay?
But
Got it.
California's like New York as a state, right?
Yeah.
If you're conservative, you're ambivalent on voting day. You're like, my vote's not going to count. So you don't even bother. You're like, if I registered to vote against Hillary when I lived in New York. You know what I got? Jury duty. I mean, that was it. My vote didn't count. It was just nonsensical. My friends were like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you giving your Texas driver's license?" I've been here for 7 years. Fine, and she's not even from New York. I'm going to go out and vote against her to do my duty, my civic duty, and all I got was jury duty. But there's a level of ambivalence whether you're living in New York or Illinois or California, and you're like, my vote. If I'm a conservative, my vote doesn't count, so why bother?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but here's the part though. Number one, like. You know the whole theory about you put a frog in the water, you boil it 1 degree slowly, and then eventually at 212 he doesn't know it's getting hotter, so he dies. Like you've heard this story. I'm not the first person telling you this story, right?
All the time. And
Yeah.
it's not true.
Yeah, and it's not true.
No, the frog jumps out as it slowly warms.
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do this on the podcast as an experiment. Next time you're here.
Good idea.
Next time, just make. I'm being serious. David, Tyler, make a note. Next time Stossel is out here, we're gonna bring a frog. We're gonna put it in the water. And we're gonna boil it at 212.
Frog in a hot plate.
And we're doing podcast. So you see the frog jump out on John. It would be hilarious. So that's the next experiment. Make a note of it. But anyways, going back to this, at what point are people gonna say, there is no freaking way this makes any sense, or is it already happening?
Elon Musk originally moved personally to Texas, and now he's relocated the headquarters.
Yeah, but remember, top marginal tax rate. So what is top marginal tax rate? Because a person making $42,000, they're like, dude, please raise the top marginal tax rate. I don't mind if you raise the top marginal tax rate. So there's more people making less than 49 than those that are making top marginal tax rate. So a lot of the people at the bottom, they're like, Silicon Valley ain't going nowhere. They're going to stay here forever, right? Like this whole thing about what happened in Detroit, that'll never happen to Silicon Valley. New York is the financial capital, Hollywood is Hollywood, even though Atlanta and Austin's kind of competing. Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley. Miami's becoming the crypto capital. There's no way these billionaires will leave. Is that
JP
true?
Morgan Chase has more employees in the state of Texas than JP Morgan Chase has in New York.
Pat, you used the analogy one time, and I
Yeah.
think you were getting to it with the frog. Is
You got upset then.
how much are you willing to get pushed? Meaning, like, if I do this to you,
Yeah.
all right, it's a little annoying. If I do that a little bit more, and if I keep pushing,
Yeah.
and pushing, at what point you can be like, dude, if you push me again, I'm gonna knock you out. And that's essentially what's happening here. It's like, all right, we'll raise it a percentage. No one's gonna
Yeah,
notice.
but you know what it is? Here's the perspective here. This is what I'm trying to ask the brains to my left, because I'm a guy with a 1.0 GPA from high school. These guys got degrees on top of degrees, and they're educated in the world. Journalists, legendary journalists, and Federal Reserve finance. Here's the question. I'm doing it to you, right? You're getting irritated. But if those that are making 40 grand a year are watching me do this to the billionaire, guess what they're saying? Do it again.
Do it again.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Fight,
awesome.
fight,
Do it
fight,
again. So
fight.
it's,
Yeah.
no, they're excited that I'm pushing you.
Of course.
They're celebrating it. And Newsom is like, oh, you like it? Oh, you like it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, awesome. Let me do some more. I think that's the dynamic.
Right.
And by the way, you know who ends up paying the biggest price for this? Not
poor
you.
people.
Because who wants you? Who wants you? 49 other
Yeah,
states
will
want
recruit
Elon
you,
Musk.
of course. Yes.
49 other states want you. This guy
median
is looking
income
at
in
them.
California, $32,000.
But so
in
here's-
2019.
There
Here's
you
the
go. That's
question.
what I'm saying. So
I love
that's-
your analogy, Pat. But why should the person making 40 grand who's watching it to get pushed, watching the billionaires get pushed, watching the millionaires get pushed, why should they care?
Why should they, John?
Because life won't be as good if you push the producers out. But why do you think that Silicon Valley won't go down like Detroit if the economics don't make sense and people are moving to Austin and Florida, nicer places? I mean, California has mountains and an ocean and great weather, a lot going for it, and bizarrely a surplus because the stock market went up so much and these zillionaires are paying more in taxes.
Yep.
But it could bust.
At what point?
I don't know.
I don't know.
What point? Is
Last
that-
time I checked, the Nasdaq's in correction.
No, I get that, but I'm trying. Like, if you have you studied the history of Detroit on what caused it to break down when a mayor, started playing games with Dearborn, and they started raising local taxes and regulation, and the union got involved and started
And the
making
corrupt
life
public
hell.
unions.
So eventually they're like, we're out of here, and the next thing you know, the population went from 1.5 million to 800,000, and all those jobs left to different places. Do you really think if that happens to Silicon Valley, it could happen? And number
So,
two is what causes that?
I'm going to push one of John's buttons
Yeah,
here.
here we go.
In Texas, which is like California Central because the influx is insane and it nonstop. A lot of parents have actually started to leave, talking about strong unions, because the LA teachers union mandated that when they shut the schools down, that they also had to have the private schools close as well. And the private schools are like, wait a minute, we've got the protocol, we can stay open. And eventually the parents just threw in the towel and they're like, we could afford to have stayed in California. They weren't bending on critical race theory. So A, taxes, B, I want my children to have an education that I want for them to have, not that's mandated and dictated. So I'm getting the hell out of here. So California is hurting itself in more ways than just economically incentivizing people to leave, is all I'm saying. Because when your union is that strong, like it was in Detroit, and a public union gets the power to close private schools, I mean, come on. That's not, there's nothing American about that.
People put up with a lot. Most people don't really pay attention to the stuff we talk about. They think about sex and music and movies and sports and raising their families. There's the expression that 90% of the people, 1% of the people make things happen and 10% watch, and the other 90% wake up and say, what happened? And people don't notice that their taxes go up a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. They just take it.
Yeah, but I mean, Patrick, if you're reading correctly, they're talking about doubling.
Yeah, but John, if you double, so let's do the math. Let's just say I'm paying $5,000 in taxes and I'm making $50 a year. That goes to $10,000 in taxes. My car payment is $320. I'm gonna feel that. Like I remember when I'm making $40,000 a year, what $100 was. I looked at $100 raise in a month. I'm like, dude, my phone bill's covered Nextel. That's fantastic. So I felt $100 at that level.
But you're contradicting yourself.
I know I am. I'm trying to challenge to see at what point do people leave. That's what I'm trying to find out. At what point does Silicon Valley just become a city, a valley, and all these guys are gone? What will cause them to leave?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing that happens in a relationship. It's that we've all, I'm sure we've been in like relationships that haven't worked out, and you get in a fight and it's like, all right, cool, whatever, it's a fight. And then you get in another fight, all right, whatever. And you get in a fight and you're arguing and it's fighting. And then at what point you're thinking, I don't know if I want to be with this person. I don't know. It just kind of keeps happening. And finally, boom, something happens. And you're like, all right, that's it. I'm getting so it's not a one and done thing. We got in a fight, we're done. It's the cumulative effect.
You meet someone else.
You see a nicer, sexier state out there. Something like Florida comes and winks at you.
Yeah. To your point,
bingo,
Patrick,
bango.
though, I mean, at some point, you're going to get so frustrated that you're waiting forever to get into a restaurant because the support staff is simply not going to be there anymore. Because you've expanded the social safety net to such an extent, right? The only fourth stimulus check in America was in California. Otherwise, the rest of the nation just got 3, and that was way too many. But
that was a state.
It was a state.
A state, okay.
It was a state. But at some point, you're going to get so frustrated if you're a zillionaire that you don't have the service that you want. You can't go to Napa Valley and go to your favorite restaurants and go to your favorite resorts because there aren't enough workers. Mm-hmm. Because the social safety net's big enough to capture them to where they don't have to work. It's at some point things start to fall apart. That's just like New York right now. I mean, you wait a lot longer at a restaurant for service, and either you want to be there or you don't.
You know what this makes me think about is this makes me think about in the following way: how many people can handle domestic violence? How many marriages do you know where people are like, you know what, shit, this sucks, but I'm not going anywhere? How many people stay in a marriage with domestic violence?
That was kind of my point with the relationships.
Yeah.
You went even further.
That's Adam's point, but you also have women's shelters that are constantly full. So clearly, human beings hit their break points, or the women's shelters wouldn't be full.
So what I'm saying is, I think California is a form of domestic violence to its citizens. I think California is the best example of domestic violence, and unfortunately, some are going to take it and tolerate it, and some are going to say, I'm getting the hell out of here. Unfortunately, the logic behind the politician, what's the politician thinking about? What is the policymaker thinking about? What is a policymaker thinking long term? Like, what's this 163 billion going to do? Like, you're going to treat 163
we're going to
better?
help people. We
Yeah.
have problems here, and if we have this money, we can get more social workers to help the neglected kids, and they believe it.
Clean up the homelessness, everything that's going on in San Francisco. I mean, we've covered that to a.
I mean, at least de Blasio left before he was able to set up the shooting up heroin tents, the safe spots.
Pat,
I mean,
this is
LA's already gone there.
This is a question for you.
Go for it.
And so I think this is ultimately where we're going with this, is that physically, John touched on this with the mountains and the oceans. Physically, California is the most beautiful state. But tax-wise and politically, it is potentially the ugliest state. You
Okay.
see what I'm saying
Yeah.
there? Would you agree with that?
Sure. So you're
like you moved out of California
for
7
you,
years
but
ago.
it's for you. It's
Yeah.
kind of like you're dating somebody who's drop dead gorgeous,
Right.
who is ridiculously demanding, and nothing ever makes her or him happy.
Yeah.
How long are you going to stay in that
That's
relationship?
my point. Is like
and you
she's
can brag
so
about
hot,
her in front of
she's so
everybody
gorgeous,
else.
but she's horrible to my friends and she's horrible to my family, and I can't like.
And honestly, she's probably also horrible in bed. You know, she's
look,
also,
you know, I don't
I'm
know.
just putting it up because
Not
he
from
brought
what I
up
hear about
sex, so maybe
California.
sex and finances.
Well, that's all that's on
your
Stars'
next
mind
show.
these days,
Yeah,
volleyball and sex,
Anyway,
apparently.
so last night we went to dinner with one of
Sex
his
in
friends.
the vault instead of Sex in the
Sex
City.
in the vault.
Sex in the vault.
Sex in the vault. So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.